The crisp morning sunlight filtered through the trees in the city park, casting long golden streaks on the winding paths. Birds chirped softly, and the gentle hum of life surrounded the area. But amidst this peaceful setting, a terrified scream shattered the calm. A little girl, no more than 5 years old, was sitting alone on a cold bench, her tiny frame shaking violently as tears streamed down her cheeks. Her pink dress was slightly crumpled, and she clutched a worn-out teddy bear with trembling hands. A young woman named Clara Whitfield, dressed in simple jeans and a faded beige cardigan, stopped in her tracks. Clara was a nanny, though not by choice. Life had been cruel to her. Her dreams of becoming a teacher had crumbled when her mother fell ill, leaving Clara as the sole provider for her family. Each day was a battle to make ends meet, juggling multiple jobs while trying to keep her younger brother in school. Clara had learned to hide her pain behind a gentle smile, but deep down, she was exhausted. Yet, when Clara saw the little girl sobbing uncontrollably, all her fatigue melted away. She rushed toward her, her heart pounding with worry. Clara knelt beside the bench, wrapping her arms around the girl without hesitation. The child clung to her desperately, her sobs echoing in the quiet park. Clara whispered soothing words, rocking her gently, feeling the child's fear seep into her own heart. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that show the power of compassion, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Journal. It helps us continue sharing heart-touching stories like this one. Clara's mind raced as she scanned the area, trying to figure out why the girl was alone. There were no adults nearby, no sign of anyone searching frantically for a missing child. The park benches stood empty, and the distant playground was eerily quiet. Clara could feel the little girl's heartbeat racing against her chest as she softly asked her name. Through hiccuped sobs, the child whispered, "Isla." Clara's heart ached at the sound of her fragile voice. She gently brushed back Isla's golden hair and promised her that everything would be okay. Clara decided to stay right there, holding Isla until someone came forward. In her heart, Clara knew she couldn't just leave the child alone, not when fear so clearly radiated from her every breath. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Clara's thoughts wandered to her own childhood. She remembered being a little girl, scared and alone, after her father abandoned their family. Maybe that was why she felt an instant connection with Isla. This wasn't just about duty, it was personal. Then, Clara saw movement in the distance. A tall man in a sharp black suit appeared, striding quickly along the park path. His presence was striking, broad shoulders, polished shoes, and an aura of authority that commanded attention. He looked like someone who didn't belong in this serene setting, more accustomed to boardrooms than park benches. Clara's breath caught as he came closer, his expression unreadable. What Clara didn't know was that this man was Adrian Locke, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Known for his ruthless business acumen and cold demeanor, Adrian was feared by many in the corporate world. But beneath that polished exterior, he carried a private wound, a devastating loss that had hardened his heart. Adrian had been searching frantically for his daughter. He had looked away for a moment, distracted by an urgent phone call, and when he turned back, Isla was gone. Panic had gripped him like never before. Adrian had always been in control of every aspect of his life, yet in that terrifying moment, he realized how powerless he truly was without his little girl. As he approached the bench, Clara felt Isla stiffen in her arms. The girl buried her face into Clara's shoulder, her sobs growing quieter but more fearful. Clara instinctively tightened her embrace, unsure why Isla seemed afraid of the man. Adrian stopped in front of them, his chest heaving as relief washed over him. His piercing eyes met Clara's, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to still. Clara felt an odd tension in the air, though she couldn't explain why. He reached out to take Isla, but Clara hesitated, wanting to be certain this was truly her father. Seeing her uncertainty, Adrian quickly pulled out a small pendant from his pocket, a heart-shaped locket Clara immediately recognized as belonging to Isla, since the little girl wore a matching bracelet. With a trembling sigh of relief, Clara gently handed Isla over. Adrian hugged his daughter tightly, whispering words Clara couldn't hear. It was clear how deeply he loved her, and yet there was a distance too, as though he wasn't used to showing vulnerability. Clara watched silently, her own heart twisting with emotions she couldn't quite name. After Isla calmed down, Adrian finally turned his attention to Clara. His voice was deep and commanding, thanking her with formal politeness. Clara simply nodded, brushing off the gratitude. For her, helping a scared child wasn't something that required thanks, it was just the right thing to do. But as Adrian studied Clara, something in her gentle demeanor struck him. He was used to people wanting things from him, money, power, connections, but Clara's kindness was raw and unassuming. She had comforted his daughter without knowing who he was, without expecting anything in return. It was a rare, disarming quality. Curious, Adrian asked Clara about herself. At first, she hesitated, reluctant to share her struggles with a stranger. But under Adrian's steady gaze, she finally revealed bits and pieces: how she worked multiple jobs to support her ill mother and younger brother, how she had given up her own education to care for her family, and how she often felt invisible in a world that seemed to value wealth over character. As she spoke, Adrian's expression softened in a way that startled even him. For years, he had surrounded himself with people who wore masks, who spoke only in terms of profit and loss. But Clara's story was painfully real. It reminded him of his late wife, Isla's mother, who had possessed that same quiet strength and selflessness. Days passed after that encounter, but Clara couldn't stop thinking about Isla and her mysterious father. She assumed she would never see them again. Then, one morning, as Clara was leaving her modest apartment, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The driver handed her an envelope with a simple note inside: "Thank you for what you did. Please come meet me at this address." Clara's heart pounded as she followed the directions to a towering glass building in the city center. Inside, she was guided to Adrian Locke's private office. The contrast between their worlds hit Clara instantly: marble floors, panoramic city views, and a sense of power that seemed to hum in the air. Adrian greeted her warmly, offering her a seat. He explained how deeply her kindness had impacted him. In his own words, Adrian confessed that since his wife's death, he had become consumed by work, neglecting the emotional needs of his daughter. Seeing Isla so terrified had been a wake-up call. Clara's simple act of comfort had done what his wealth never could: it had brought Isla peace. Then, to Clara's utter shock, Adrian offered her a job, not just as Isla's nanny, but as someone he trusted to help nurture and guide his daughter's growth. Clara was overwhelmed. She had never imagined an opportunity like this. Still, Clara hesitated. She didn't want to accept out of pity or charity. But Adrian reassured her, explaining that he had seen her genuine heart and wanted Isla to be raised by someone who truly cared. Clara thought of her struggling family, her dreams of stability, and most importantly, the bond she had felt with Isla that day in the park. Finally, with tears in her eyes, she accepted. From that day forward, Clara's life transformed. She moved into a beautiful home, but more importantly, she became a source of love and stability for Isla. Slowly, Adrian too began to change. Under Clara's quiet influence, he learned to put down his phone, to be present, to laugh again. The cold, distant CEO began to rediscover his humanity. Months later, Clara sat on the same park bench where it had all begun, Isla's hand nestled safely in hers. Adrian joined them, no longer the untouchable figure in a suit, but a father who had found redemption. Clara looked around at the sunlight filtering through the trees and felt a deep, quiet joy. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward, changing lives in ways we can't imagine. Clara had once been just a poor nanny struggling to survive. Now, she was proof that compassion could bridge even the widest gaps between worlds. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Journal so we can keep bringing you inspiring, emotional stories that remind us all of the power of love and second chances. Before you go, comment below and tell us, have you ever experienced a moment where a simple act of kindness changed your life? Your story might inspire someone else today. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara smiled, knowing that one moment of selfless love had forever changed 3 lives, and perhaps countless others who would one day hear their story.